Hello, friends and family. All right, episode 4 of the series Messages to My 15-Year-Old Self. Today's subject, kind of a risque one, it deals with failure. Failure, challenges, struggles, stuff like that. So, I guess one of my first takeaways is failure, to me, is never permanent. So, failure happens in many different shapes, forms to all of us. Like, none of us are immune to experiencing failure. If you meet anybody that says I've never failed at anything, they're either lying or they're not recognizing the learning opportunities that came their way. Every success story that I know of has a previous story within themselves of failure of their own failures. It's just because you experience failure doesn't mean you are a failure, right? So that's important, because failure is something that happens. It's not something that you are, especially not you. I mean, there's plenty of people that were honest when they told you you can be whatever you want to be. You know, you're very talented. You have a lot of good support. You have a lot of opportunities, a lot of options to do what you are meant to do. And some of those opportunities will be fulfilled and some of them will be missed, which happens because, unfortunately, I don't think that it's true that you can be everything you want to be. But of the things, of your options, that most of them are attainable. Almost all of them are attainable. What else? So failure it's a learning opportunity. Every piece of failure is something you can learn from, right? There's like a little acronym, FIAL, first attempt in learning. It is not something that you look for. You don't want to fail at things, but whenever they happen, because they are going to happen, then they are things that you should embrace, I think, and not things that you should just try to forget about, because then it's a wasted opportunity of learning and growing and developing. In this particular example, so when I was 15 years old, this was 1 year before I had one of the biggest failures of my life, I would say. And not just something that I did, but something that happened around me, right? So there was stuff that happened in my family. There was stuff that I dealt with it a certain way, probably not the best way, but this failure that happened 1 year after I was 15, it wasn't something I saw coming, but it also seems interesting that the year 15 was, it seemed like there was not a lot of movement, I think, and maybe that helped, maybe not helped, but maybe that contributed to what led to some of the failure. I mean, I doubt it, but I don't think it helped. I think that the fact that I was pretty complacent when I was 15, just kind of figuring things out and not really striving for more, I don't think that helped in how I handled the failure the following year, because I couldn't focus on anything that I was working on, because I really wasn't working on anything significant. I would love to go back and in this example, I would love to go back and talk to my 16-year-old self about failure rather than my 15-year-old self. But if I can talk to my 15-year-old self, then my 16-year-old self would benefit from that information. So, what other examples do I have? Okay, so I'll just give like a literal one. So, 15 years old was, my grades started kind of dropping off, because I remember when I was like 13, 14, I was like trying to do everything perfect, and it was, I had mixed results, you know, but when I was 15, I was like, maybe it's not that important, and I didn't see the vision for myself for just kind of like buckling down and doing my best at everything. And when I was 16, I paid for it. So, it manifested itself in the form of a failed grade, my first failing grade in a class. Yeah, so that was, I had a lot of dark experiences in going through that class. I wish I could go back and talk to the teacher that taught the class, because I feel like she would be pleased with my explanation of how things went down. And it wasn't because she was a bad teacher. In fact, I think she was a great teacher. I don't think it was a bad class. I think it was a good class. I just think it wasn't, I didn't deserve to pass the class, not with what I was going through, not with how I handled things. It was probably, the failing grade is what it was probably what I needed at the time. And I feel like I'm a better person because of it. Which is how all failures, there's that other cliche, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's true. I think it's true. Because I can think of everything that I feel like I've done badly at, or everything that I feel like I've failed at. It was just collecting data to help me grow and learn and be a better person in some way. And then later, when I was successful, it was because of some of these failures that I experienced in the past. And, and those failures are part of my experiences, and so they are unique to me. They're now part of my story that I can use to help myself or help other people. I can use to help drive the identity of my own life and those around me that I care about. So failure is something that I don't look for. I don't try to fail at things, but I definitely don't try to forget about them either whenever they happen. I try to embrace them, and I try to apply the lessons in future experiences so that I don't fail the same way. And if I do fail the same way, then it's just another wake-up call to where, hey, man, like, you gotta buckle down and do something different here. Otherwise, it's gonna keep happening, because they're not fun. Failure is not fun. It's not like a fun way of learning. It's an effective way of learning, but it's not a fun way of learning. So, I would say to my 15-year-old self, when the failures happen, embrace them, learn from them, move on, and eventually you can be grateful for them. So, that's it.